What's that sound? It's For Amusement Only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast.
Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. For tonight's episode, I wanted to continue in my little mini-series about Bally's control units and talk a bit about the first pieces that rotate closest to the motor itself. These are in constant rotation as long as the machine is on and not timed out. As I mentioned briefly in the last episode, the control unit is made up of multiple rotating cams which are separated by clutches. The clutches engage and disengage as needed in order to allow the machine to think about various things. Today we're going to be talking about the first two cams, which are in every Bally Bingo that I've worked on, but there may be some exceptions that I've never worked on. So the first two essentially control timing. By the way, it would probably help to point out that I'm talking about the control unit as found in my 1971 Double Up. This control unit is a bit larger than most of the others and has some switches which are present only on later model bingos, such as the 20 holes. Most of this information is applicable to every bingo, but not all of it. So you need to reference your manual for your specific bingo to find out exactly which cams do what. But in Double Up's case, the first two pieces control timing. So you have one cam, the one that's located closest to the motor, and that is notated as Cam A. Cam A has a switch stack mounted on top with two switches, one of which completes the select before fifth ball timer unit step up, and the second opens the circuit to the mixer latch relay. Then there's a second cam labeled B, and B has a switch stack with a single switch, and that switch completes the circuit to the multiplay relay when you put in a coin. Then you have the drag arm, which is located on the front of the control unit with its own switch Q. Q is the most important switch in this section. It engages the timer step up. This is the feature that allows the motor to time itself out after a period of sitting idle after a game has been completed. So this switch labeled Q on the drag arm is only really active once your fifth ball has been shot. And due to the randomized nature of how often that switch is pressed, it will take a variable amount of time to time out your motors depending on the game's construction. Now, one thing that I didn't talk about in my score motor series, which I am remiss in not discussing, is how they are labeled in the manual. So let's take a look at the manual here for Double Up. And as with every Bally Bingo, the manual is fantastic and gives you a lot of information. The switch stack, which is closest physically to the motor, the part that actually turns all these cams, is always going to be first. That is usually where the motor index switch is on a typical score motor. But in looking at this Bally Bingo, you have switch stack A, which is located on the cam right beside the motor. And then switch stack B is located right next to the clutch, which is physically a bit away. Now the beauty of the control unit's design is how everything works harmoniously together in order to provide the game with guaranteed timer step-ups, for example, even on something that is mechanically rotating and will only occasionally close the switch. Now, if you listen to my podcast about the problem with Magic Screen games and how certain ones have an issue with the timing, these are the switches which are directly involved with the timing. Again, looking at the manual, you've got A1, which is only labeled as such in later model bingos. And then you've got Q1, and those have to operate together in order to actually step up the timer. Now, here's an interesting thing. Over the years, Bally changed the way these switch stacks were numbered or designated. So, grabbing the manual for my Bounty, let's flip that open. And we've got the control unit. Now, if you'll recall, just a few moments ago, we have a switch stack labeled A1, so you have cam A, cam B, etc. In the earlier games, the switch stacks were numbered instead. So you have 1A, 2A, 2B, etc. And I'm not sure why they made the switch from numeric to alpha for labeling the switches. The only thing I can think is maybe it was friendlier for people who were not numbers people for whatever reason, but it doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense to me. The numeric system worked just fine, and it was in use for so many years. You know, we're talking from the 40s up until the early 70s when they apparently did the switchover. I have no idea why they would do that, because it would mess up every technician who ever worked on a bingo. Well, that's all for tonight. Thank you again for joining me. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com, or you can call me at 724-BINGOS1. That's 724-246-4671. You can listen to our show on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at nbaldridge, or you can listen to us on our website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.